Good morning. Today is Wednesday, October 22nd, and this is Devotions from St. Paul Evangelical Lutheran Church in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. I'm going to take a passage today from Paul's first letter to the Corinthians. And the main topic of this passage, Paul's going to talk about wisdom. But I think that you'll find that it's wisdom defined differently than you and I might define it. So this is from the second chapter of Paul's first letter to the Corinthians. When I came to you, brothers and sisters, I did not come proclaiming the mystery of God to you in lofty words or wisdom. For I decided to know nothing among you except Jesus Christ and him crucified. And I came to you in weakness and in fear and in much trembling. My speech and my proclamation were not with plausible words of wisdom, but with a demonstration of the Spirit and of power, so that your faith might rest not on human wisdom, but on the power of God. Yet among the mature we do speak of wisdom, though not the wisdom of this age or of the rulers of this age, who are doomed to perish. But we speak God's wisdom, secret and hidden, which God decreed before the ages for our glory. None of the rulers of this age understood this, for if they had, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory. But as it is written, what no eye has seen, nor ear heard, nor human heart conceived, what God has prepared for those who love him. These things God has revealed to us through the Spirit. For the Spirit searches everything, even the depths of God. For what human being knows what is truly human, except the human spirit that is within? So also no one comprehends what is truly God's, except the Spirit of God. Now we have received not the spirit of the world, but the Spirit that is from God, so that we may understand the gifts bestowed on us by God. And we speak of these things in words, not taught by human wisdom, but taught by the Spirit, interpreting spiritual things to those who are spiritual. This is a little bit complicated, the way Paul explains it. But basically what he's saying is, God's wisdom and man's wisdom are not the same. In another passage in the same letter, Paul said, God's foolishness is wiser than man's wisdom. And I don't even think that tells the story as how much different, how much above the wisdom that you and I might have. So let's take a look at what this wisdom is. If we start with Proverbs say, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And I think you can get the same sense from this passage from 1 Corinthians, that we are going to get this wisdom that is not of this world, not of the rulers of this world, but from the Spirit of God. And it's going to teach us true wisdom, because it will be God's wisdom. Now, if you also go back to the Old Testament, Solomon was the second king of the United Kingdom and the last. And when God asked him what he would like as he became king, he said, I am very young, and I don't know how to rule this people. I would like your wisdom so that I might rule these people well and wisely. And God was pleased with that answer. And so there are legends that say that Solomon was the wisest person who ever lived. We don't know, but we do know that at the end of Solomon's life, the kingdom split up in large part because of the errors that Solomon made in following the precepts of God that he had given to Moses and are laid down in Moses' writings. So we have to be very careful with this idea of wisdom. So let's do this on the same basis that Paul was writing. Paul says, no one knows what it is to be human except the human spirit. And it seems to me what Paul is saying is, we all have our secrets. We all have the persona that we show to other people, and then we all have the part of us that is internal, that we live with every day, and maybe every moment of every day. And only we know, except that God also knows, because the Spirit searches us. And if we're fortunate, the Spirit convicts us so that we can fix or at least work on the things that we hold in our spirit that are contrary to God. God says his Spirit is the one that tells true wisdom. And it is through that, Paul tells us, that we learn about Jesus, about how Jesus and God relate, about all the things that Jesus did for us and continues to do for us, and most particularly about how he came and reconciled us to God. That's wisdom. We only touch the surface, but the Spirit continues to try to impart God's wisdom to us if we listen, if we let the Spirit have issue with us, have control of us, have the time and the energy for us to speak to the Spirit, listen to the Spirit, and continue to form our relationship with Jesus Christ. This isn't something that we do on our own. This isn't something we can do on our own. And as Paul tells us, this is one of the things that we get when we get the Spirit of God dwelling in us. This idea of wisdom can be confusing because we think we know how things work. And yet, if you listen to the Spirit that's within you, you know all the contradictions in your own life. That's the Spirit of God convicting you, telling you, think about this. Think about this thing as you think, and think about this thing as God thinks, and see what the difference is. And remember, earlier Paul said, the foolishness of God is wiser than the wisdom of people. This is the second chapter. The first and second chapters tell about foolishness and wisdom. And Paul writes in such strong language, and it's good for us to listen to that. I hope you'll take the time to read these chapters of Paul's letter to the Corinthians and see for yourself what you think about God's wisdom and the Spirit that brings that wisdom, and that Spirit dwells in us. I hope that this will encourage you to think about this deeply. Thank you.